tell me about your first few years of being in Kentucky, specifically Louisville, and how has that felt? Living in Louisville. So I know you were at Radcliffe first, but
Right.
what was your first year like living in Louisville?
Well, to start off, I mean, moving to Louisville, I really did not know anybody. So it was difficult trying to figure out where do you fit in, what spaces will accept you, what spaces are open to you. And it was really hard for me because as much as I can be an extrovert, most of the time I feel like I lean towards the introverted side of myself, and I can so easily get wrapped up in drawing at home to the point where I feel like I don't even need to go out. But then when you do that, you kind of close yourself off to the world. So I started looking into opportunities to perform my art in spaces in downtown Louisville. And that's where one of the first poetry open mics I heard about was through the KMAC Museum. I spent my first couple times just listening to other local poets, fell in love with the environment and the atmosphere that was so opening and welcoming to so many different people. I decided, the next time they have an open mic, I'm going to join. And that's kind of when I did. And I feel like that next time is like when I met you. And from there, I feel like it's just kind of like been this rolling effect where I've met so many different people in the poetry and art scene that has opened up my world. And I felt like the community has been very respectful and accepting of me being, an outsider to the community.
Okay. Were there any times that maybe someone made you feel like an outsider? Like, have you had any of those?
I I feel like I haven't necessarily had too many bad moments. I feel like if I've ever felt awkward in the community, it's just been, random instances where I feel like I can tell that people are staring at me. But I think it's only because maybe that day I happen to have a flower in my hair and people are trying to figure out, who is this person? How does she fit into this community? But honestly, poetry has allowed me to be more open with people. So by virtue of being able to just enter into conversations, allowing people to get to know me, I feel like in that sense, it's worked out great.
What are some of the things that you're up to now? Because I think that the work with that company you mentioned was last year. What are some and you're currently wrapping up your hair book project, but what are some other things that you're working on?
Outside of the children's illustrations that I've been working on, and also outside of my initial digital illustrations, one of the biggest things is I've been trying to focus on how can I work towards enhancing, I guess, like all the different parts of myself, because, yes, I, love drawing and I love poetry, but there's so many different other parts to me. And I feel like since leaving Hawaii, I've been focused on what parts have I not given attention to. And with that, it's kind of pushed me into kind of like a different realm of trying to figure out this new community that I can get involved with to kind of remain close to my heritage, even though I'm so far removed from Hawaii now. And so there's, two bigger groups that I've become a part of recently. The first group that I'm involved in is called Ikeroa, and it's a Hawaiian dance class where the focus is just our quest, for knowledge and wisdom regarding the Hawaiian culture. And it's given me a opportunity to connect with people who are not only from Hawaii, but maybe have some type of historical heritage to the area, or just in general love, the idea of Hawaii and want to learn more. And so these are people that I'm connecting with in regards to like common experiences. And outside of that, I am also on this quest to learn more about the Hawaiian language. So I'm involved in another group called Halau Olelo, which Olelo just referring to the Hawaiian language. And basically it's about fostering, the Hawaiian language mastery for Native Hawaiians who are displaced geographically throughout, not only the United States, but the world. So it's giving me a space online where I can not only learn Hawaiian, but practice speaking to other people as well. And it's allowed me to redraw or reconnect with my heritage, even though I'm over 3,000 miles away from home.
Right. Is there like, is there a community of like displaced Hawaiians that are in Louisville, like you've been able to meet up with in real life prior to, and how big of a community would you say that is?
So in real life, Ikara, there are a handful of people who actually have Native Hawaiian ancestry within the group. Um, Honestly, the group has kind of varied in size, especially with COVID, which has affected, our ability to meet one-on-one in person at the dance studio. But even though it's a small community of like about no more than 10 people, give or take a few, depending on availability. It's still big enough to where we can, work through dances together, but also develop intimate relationships with each other. And then so in that sense, yes, I've been able to meet in person with a lot of people from my dance class.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how did you feel when you first discovered like there was a group like this? And you're like, here? Like how did that feel?
Well, I think the first thing I was, after I had Googled, Hawaiian dance classes in Louisville, Kentucky, I wanted to do my research to figure out if they were a legitimate class, meaning that the teacher was authentic in the sense that she had dedicated some part of her life to truly learning the Hawaiian hula, because in traditional Hawaiian hula, it's not just, anybody can get on YouTube, learn a dance, and then start teaching people. You have to have permission from your elders. So she did have permission from elders in her circle, give her the permission to be a teacher, and she has a permission to teach us. So after having the opportunity to connect with the class, figure out what her style of educating us was like, I had confirmed that it was a legitimate community invested in continuing the true heritage of Hawaii.